how do you see it, and how do you envision the future of education, considering all these inquiries?
I think because of a variety of changes, a transformation in the future of work, AI, and what we learned during COVID, it's certainly putting incredible pressure on how we teach, how students learn. And frankly, it gives us a real opportunity to completely transform how education works. In the past, schools, I love the title, factory model schools. The schools were designed with 1 hour lecture slots. Why 1 hour? I mean, has anyone given thought as to why lectures are all 1 hour? By the way, at MIT, we have 1.5 hours as well. The reason is that in a factory floor, when the time slots of work is fixed, you can pipeline things well. Pipelining means that when one student or one worker finishes a job and starts the next job, somebody else can use the machine in that slot. So that's the pipelining concept. Similarly, in schools, by having everything be one size, it enables better use of physical resources. So in a schooling system, we've optimized it to better use our physical resources like classrooms and benches. But what about the student? But today, with the advent of AI and online learning, we can reach students all over the world, teach massive numbers of students, and at the same time, AI can personalize the learning to each student. So we don't really need to go to this model where everything has to be one size. We can now personalize at scale. And so there's a real opportunity for us to personalize learning to students, and at the same time, as you said, education will need to be lifelong, not just from the age of 18 to 22. Because in the past, you could learn, graduate college at 22, and then work for the rest of your life doing the same thing. But today, every field is changing so rapidly. What you knew 10 years ago is no longer valid. And so you have to learn new things, or you will be, the society will discard you. So you have to keep learning newer and newer things and become what is called a continuous lifelong learner. So all of these forces are causing us to really rethink how we teach and when we teach.
Regarding the same matter, Mr. Wolfram, and giving your long-standing demand on addressing issues in math education especially, to address them rather than ignore them, now we have this AI shockwave that have sent the shock through all the sector, the education sector itself. How do you envision this, and what should be done now for a better tomorrow?
So I think we have to separate how we learn, which, as we've just heard, has massive transformation possibilities. But I want to talk about what we learn. Because a lot of what's happening at the moment is teaching the same old subject with new tools. And that we have to rethink. And particularly at the center of this is mathematics. People believe mathematics in schools is the future. Everybody has to learn it because we are now entering the AI age. We'll look again, because the mathematics we have in schools is 100 years old and assumes no computers. The curriculum is fundamentally the wrong curriculum. So we have to reform that. That has been evident in growing evidence for 30 to 40 years, from calculators to now computers. And yet we haven't reformed in any country in the world. No country has a curriculum for mathematics assuming computers exist. Not one. So I want to separate two things, because as you know, I believe that that is a fundamental reform that is required and is essential for our societies. We now rely on what I would call computational literacy for everyone. Just like in the early or late 18th century, the idea of mass literacy for everyone was born, and that was very beneficial to the countries who took that on first. They did very well in the Industrial Revolution. The same is true now for computational literacy, and it's dangerous if we do not have that spread. But there's a further thing. We should learn from our mistakes of mathematics for all the other subjects. We're entering an age where every subject is going to be transformed by AI in the real world. Mathematics was transformed 30, 40 years ago, and yet we still haven't changed the curriculum. So firstly, fix mathematics, and secondly, use mathematics to inform how we fix other subjects as they change in the real world.
So elaborating from this, thank you very much. Elaborating from this, Dr. Park, how should governments, policymakers, teachers, parents, employers, students adapt with these changing, ever-changing in the education landscape?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the invitation. Now you talk about how to learn. You talk about what to learn. I want to talk about why to learn. Seriously. DQ, I'm from DQ Institute. DQ stands for Digital Intelligence. It is an IEEE global standard for digital literacy and digital skills. I was privileged to work with international organizations, government, K-12 teachers, and all different stakeholders to talk about the future education last 20 years. So, giving you an example, I'm from Korea. I helped Korea government to develop the whole strategy on AI and digital educations from K-12 to all. And at first, I was very excited about all this AI and technology and all others. So we implemented AI, we implemented blockchain, and we implemented online learning. We've done a lot of different things. And then I came down to a very simple question. What is really education? Technology can change, but we need to ask why we want to educate. So I love Martin Luther King Jr. talk about the purpose of education. It is not just about intelligence. Intelligence plus characters. Intelligence he defined as power to concentrate. What is power to concentrate? 3 things. Think effectively, how fast you can go. Think intensively, what kind of depth you can have. Number 3, think critically. And this social media age, we see that three things, gamification and all this, is not necessarily really helpful for us to actually enhance these 3 things. What about the characters? So I found that if now people ask me about what is the first thing that you want to do in changing the future educations, I would say teacher empowerment. In this forum, I met fantastic people. Prime minister, professors, technologists, millionaires, and others. Where are teachers? You're not teacher, in a way. Where are teachers? So, teachers need to know what really AI, computational literacy, digital intelligence, and how they can maximize their class using all these tools. AI can predict, but human needs to decide. They need to understand what is the best optimal way to do the decision making in a very human-centered way. And we are missing teachers in the equation. And I work with a lot of teachers. They're super intelligent, but they're super busy, they're super overwhelmed. If you're bringing another technology to the class, they're going to say, oh my goodness, another thing's in my plate, right? So I'd really want to say, let's go back to why we educate, which is really about upbringing humans, beings, not workers, and that can start from the classroom, and that can start from empowering teachers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What do you think, Dr. Anand, about these? Because we have so many questions that we take and issues that we take for granted. We never question them about the role of the teacher and the school and the function of them, especially with these rapid advancements. Also, the 12-year span education system, the age divide, the schedule of classrooms, so many things that we never question. Now it's open for discussion. Should we reconsider them? And what are the alternatives?
This is a great question. And let me start by saying we don't have the answers. but we have a fantastic field. The time is for innovation and thinking. So as my colleague, Dr. Wolfram mentioned, that maths should be taught assuming computer literacy. I think that's too late. I think maths should be taught assuming AI literacy. So we've taught maths assuming students know about numeracy, because people have been taught maths with a calculator now. And then you can teach maths assuming students know how to use computers. But now with the advent of AI, and particularly Gen AI and ChatGPT and so on, we don't need to change our education system to assume that these AI tools exist. That students need to learn how to use those tools because they will be using them in their jobs. I remember being here for the last the Global Summit last year, and the Education Minister, His Excellency Ahmed, gave a speech written by ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. So if ministers can use ChatGPT in their work, everybody will be using it in their work. So students have to learn that. And then you talked about how teachers have to be involved in this thinking process. I think the real answer is that to understand that we don't know what the answers are, but we know that things have to change. Mm-hmm. And so you asked the question, what should ministries of education do? I think this is the time for empowering teachers to think critically, of ministers of education and their teams to think critically about what we are doing, and really allow people to fail. But excellent, Her Highness talked about how we need to allow people to fail and do experiments. This is the time for experimentation, new ways of teaching, new ways of breaking down curricula, thinking of innovative way of combining teaching. And so there are no answers. Let's accept that. Let's allow teachers and ministers and educators to fail, and let's experiment. This is the time for experimentation. The world is changing so fast around us that if we are static, it will shoot by us and we will be stuck in the mud. Mm-hmm. Experimentation is key at this time.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, our time is very tight. I would like to thank our esteemed...
Can I make one more comment before we have a few minutes left, I think? Firstly, I just want to correct something. AI is an example of computation. It's one part of result of computation. So AI, I fully agree, people need to know what the machinery is at the moment. Mm-hmm. And the most important thing is you need to look to the real world and inject that back to education. And that hasn't happened very well. We have a real world that's moving very fast, and yet curricula and indeed how we learn as well as what we learn hasn't changed. In terms of why we learn, I fully agree. In fact, I talk about this a lot in my book, The Maths Fix. What is it? Why do we have any of these subjects built in? And I think to enhance, to enhance life. I mean, that's what we want to do in some way and accelerate it. So those are some of the reasons, and I think it's critical that we speed up the process of taking the real world and turning it to educational world.
Yes.
Can I add on to that?
Because we have a short, quickly, please.
So, because of Minister, the ending comment was about the KPI. Mm-hmm. And can we use AI to assess? I think that is a very important question. And then there are a lot of great research that has been done about using AI as a proactive, multidimensional assessment tools. So I think KPI is enormously important. I'm trained as a mathematician and statistician. Mm-hmm. I love numbers, but numbers can be misleading. And what you actually put as your KPI define your futures. So when you look at the KPI in a very silo way, how good at the calculation and all this, is that we are no matter what we change, it just moved to the wrong direction. So we need to really think about what is the real KPI that we need to fix, how we can revolutionize our assessment in order to go into the field. PISA, great, but I think PISA is for yesterday. We need the new way to organize, and then bringing, especially AI, to bring the global south to leapfrog, and then bringing to the next generation education into the field, and I think it's very possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Yoon-Hoon Park, DQ Institute. I would like to thank you also, Dr. Anant Agarwal, founder of edX. and also Mr. Konrad Wolfram, co-founder and CEO of Wolfram Research. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.